Good morning. My name is Paul from company Greenlander. Thank you very much for joining us at our stand here at the CMT in Stuttgart, where we're presenting our Sherpa, our Greenlander Sherpa. It's a expedition vehicle, very versatile car, based on an Iveco 4x4. And I would be happy to give you a little show and tour around the car and tell you a little bit more about what's special with this car. So when we start at the outside, you already see, well, that looks like an interesting color. Some people might think it's carbon fibers, but when you have a closer look, you see it's actually natural fibers. To be very precise, it's linen, flax fibers we are using. And yeah, why is that interesting? Flax fibers require a lot less energy to grow. At the same time, we're still able to build really a lightweight, stiff, sturdy, robust cab out of it. And that, of course, has ecological benefits, which is nice, but also we are doing it for ourselves. Because what we want is when we're traveling in a car like this, we're not going on a tour for 2 weeks, but rather for 2 months or even longer. So the more important it is to feel comfortable within the cab. And our strategy to achieve this is by using natural materials wherever possible. So, yeah, maybe if you shall we go inside to have a look?
Yes, please.
Yeah, please. Okay. What's your first impression when you come in here? It's probably a lot of light, right? You see.
It's very, very light and very beautiful layout. I love this layout.
Yeah. It's a kind of a classic layout. You may be familiar also from some other manufacturers. We didn't really do any experiments on the layout. Also, a lot of it is already, let's say, we have the garage in the back, so we of course have the bed on top. What we did decide is to have a separate bathroom. Some cabs nowadays also include the idea that you basically enter into the bathroom to save some space, but we thought that's a nice idea. In the serial production, where now you see the mirror, we have a walkthrough to the car, and that's also essential. I really recommend that. Here in the prototype, so we are right now in the prototype. We didn't include it yet. In general, we tested our prototype for in total 10 months, and we learned a lot in that process. A lot of things really worked out, and we were very happy, especially the look and feel. You feel of the cabin, that's going to be the same in the serial production. But some small things, you just learn when you go out there, when you go, actually use the car. You find out, for example, that the dinette, so the dining area, we extended by 10 centimeters, and also to include the ability to turn it into a bed. Yeah, what else did we learn? Yeah, this walkthrough I just explained. A lot of windows, exactly. You see it here, blinds included. There's a magnet connecting it, exactly. And on the other side, you have the mosquito net. So you can basically have everything in these frames. Yeah.
Here is the
overhead departments. Basically, we have very strong magnets here. But also the serial production, we're switching the model a bit because these are not so handy. So we're going to have, like in an airplane, exactly, that open to the top. Yeah, we already played a bit with the cupboards to have an idea. Maybe what's interesting, we really use a lot of cork, as you can see. For example, here we're also using cork as separators for the glasses to really avoid any kind of damage when you're going a bit into the terrain. Also, the floor may be interesting. In general, we have floor heating throughout the car. So everywhere you have here in the living area, but also in the bathroom, everywhere there's floor heating. Here you have the dinette. Also, the surface here might be interesting. It's Schiefer, for you say in German. I don't even know how to say it in English, but so it's a real stone. And also here, this really, of course, creates a kind of atmosphere and gives warmth to the cabin. This is our sink. We have now 2 boards on it, so we can switch them and use them as cutting boards. And then it reveals a rather nice and big sink.
Oh, it's very, very strong, very big.
Yeah.
And I love this because I see you put here, and you can move it like this.
Yeah. Multifunctional. I mean, we have a limited space, so we have to be smart about it. We offer this car also gas-free. Then you have here an induction stove. Right, and you have no gas system at all on board. It really depends on what the customer's intentions are in terms of traveling. If you really travel worldwide, often you want to also avoid gas for shipping, but also you have different adapters for the gas, which makes it a bit complicated. Yeah, you're just finding an interesting design feature, which is our, if you want, so overhead light. So above the bed, we have a step in the roof. So here where we're standing now, we of course have 2.2 meter headspace, so really sufficient space. But on top of the bed, of course, we don't need that space, right? Because we are, at best, we are leaning against the wall, reading a book. So we are then going down with the roof. This creates an additional light. And also it creates a more cozy atmosphere in the bed, right? You are leaning there, and then maybe if you showed, you have this really 360 almost view out of the cabin.
I see in the back you have an
the window's open, exactly. That's a panorama window in the back, and yeah, it's very, very popular. And also that's a place where you typically find yourself. You chill here on the bed, or here, of course, at the table. And the third option, which is very popular, is here on the roof, because we're the space basically here on top. You can walk on it, and we even have like a little terrace. So we have like also a cork floor on top, and you can actually climb on the roof. Or if you include a hedge here, you can go from the bed over the hedge onto the roof. And that's actually a place where you find yourself quite often, because you can really, of course, look into nature, and you're very, yeah.
What dimension have the bed?
It's a 140 width, 2 meter long bed. And sometimes, of course, clients say they want to have the option to sleep separately, because otherwise when you have to go to the toilet at night, you have to climb on top of each other. That's usually a problem, and also it doesn't get better with age, I've been told. So what we typically do is and that's something we can look at outside, in the serial production we've extended the dinette, and now you can also have a 1.85 meter bed here. And that's nice in a way, because you then have two separate sleeping opportunities or options, and that makes it all a bit, yeah. Especially on long tours, I think we all know it. Maybe we're a bit sick or something. We want to have a bit of space. This is how we try to solve that situation. Okay, what's also of course very important with a car like this is your storage. You've seen inside you have some storage options. So under the bed, under the seating area, you have quite a few options. But typically inside you only have the stuff you need on an everyday basis. So where do you put your rest? And that's typically what you put in your garage. So that's a space underneath the bed. And yeah, right now it's a bit chaotic, of course, because we're using this space also for storage here during the show. But in general, you create yourself a system for stuff you don't need every day. And yeah, that gives you also quite a lot of options already. And then on top of that, you have the option, of course, to store items on the back. Here it's not included, but in the serial production, we have airline tracks. So we include like a reinforcement within the laminate that allows us to also put quite heavy loads onto the airline tracks. So you can put your extra tires, for example, on this level. You can put a bike on this level. So this is also quite a nice storage space. Then again, you see this nice big panorama window, which is really like a key feature, and also, yeah, really, I think is a nice part of the overall design. It's high enough so nobody can look inside, so it's quite private. But from you, if you're laying on the bed, as you've just seen in the inside view, you have a nice view outside. Also, I think another feature which is nice, if we look at it from the side a little bit, we see what we discussed already when we were inside. There's a step in the roof. And then you ask yourself, why do you have that, right? In the end, you want your cabin to be as small as possible. That's the option, right? And we also, in a way, reduce then the size and make it less massive in the back. We create this terrace on the roof. You see also there's a rail going around it. Actually, you go with your ladder, you go into the rail, and then you can climb up to the terrace. The part on the front is entirely used for solar power and other functional items. In total, the height of our car is below 3.20 meters, which is also very important, because if you're above 3.20, you can run into trouble. For example, if you have to be towed, you can be more than 4 meters. In the serial production, we move this. This is, of course, if you're stuck in the sand, right, to get out. We're gonna turn this into an option which is located next to the door, and you can turn it 90 degrees downwards, and then you have a table, for example, for a barbecue or for preparation of food. Yeah, and I think you get the idea. I think what's also special, so the panels are made from natural fibers, what we talked about, but also the profiles, what you see here, they are also made from natural fibers. I can show it here. We have a model basically of our laminate, and you see in the core material we have a recycled PET foam. This is the natural fibers with a plant-based epoxy, the skin. But what's important is we want to use the same material also for the connection elements or for the profiles. Because of course, if you're in extreme heat or extreme cold, you can have like a expansion of the material, and you want to make sure it's like a homogeneous material. So in a way, it's like almost built like a monocoque, because it's throughout the whole cabin is built from the same material. What you see here on the bottom, you might be asking, what is this? In the end, this is to protect other people in traffic, because if somebody is crashing into you, they get stopped at this level and they don't end up below the car, because that would be, of course, a hazard for the driver. If you are off-road, you have the ability to pull it up, and then you can take and make use of the angle to explain a little bit more in detail what the cab is made of, because it sounds confusing, right? It's made from linen. You're like, linen, that's a textile, that's maybe what I make clothes of. But let's go through it step by step. So this is basically what's cut off in the field. Then they put it on the floor in the field, and on the ground, and they let the sun dry it. And then you see already, if you zoom in, you see like these fibers coming out from this wooden kind of like structure. You see like these fibers coming out. And if we basically mechanically break down the straw, we can extract this. It looks like wool, right? Like hair, like wool. But this is actually the flax fiber, the linen. And this then gets processed further, combed, and then we convert it into this, which is like a yarn. But what's special about the yarn is, I have to find a good place to show. What's special about this yarn is, you see it's flat. And it has a very, very nice tensile strength, a pulling strength. And the density of this is very low. It's a lot lower than glass fiber. So ultimately, we can use the great mechanical properties of this yarn by turning it into fabrics. So this is the fabric you see also on the surface of the car, a woven structure. That's also when you go very close up to the car. Then we support this, because basically here you have a 0 and 90 degree direction, and then you add this, which is 45 and minus 45 degrees, and stitch together. So these two go together. We put them in a press, and we exert a lot of pressure, 6 bar of pressure, and we also infuse a plant-based epoxy resin. It still contains some petrochemical elements, but it's a lot reduced. So we're talking about like 80% or more, let's say, regrowing content in our laminate. This is pressed to a skin, so basically like this. This is our skin, and this determines our mechanical properties of our composite in the end. And then we glue it together with a core material. For example, for the outside, we're using this recycled PET, because we can use like a nice, for example, 60 degree or 80 kilogram per cubic meter density. And yeah, this way we are able to create a great exterior sandwich panel for our cab.
This is good also for because in a weight of a car.
Yeah, absolutely.
Help to be lighter.
Exactly. So in general, I think for people familiar with this kind of category, so the Iveco 4x4 cabs in this kind of category, typically they are more closer to the 7 tons, and we are able to build the entire car, what you've seen, let's say ready for expedition, around 4.5 tons. So even if you use a 5.5 ton chassis, you still have about a ton of payload, which is quite amazing. And if you take the big chassis, you even have almost 2 tons or more than 2 tons of payload, which is, I guess, even more than you can even fit into the car. So it gives you a lot of options to put like this. And in general, when you are traveling, apart from any legal requirements and weight restrictions, you want to be as light as possible, right? Because you have to move everything with you. It determines your ability, the feeling you have when you also leave maybe the paved road and go a little bit off-road. You really want to be as light and as small and as compact as possible. What's also interesting to understand is that basically these materials are like a toolbox. So you create a skin. Depending on which reinforcements you use, you determine, let's say, the mechanical potential. But then in the end, of course, you have something in mind. You have a use in mind. It can be the exterior of a car, but it could also be a furniture panel. So what you're holding now in your hand is, for example, a furniture panel where we're using a paper honeycomb. So it's a paper reinforced with a resin. But you feel it. It's hard to tell. We have the camera. It's super light. We're talking about then less than 4 kilos per square meter, but super stiff and super lightweight. Another option could be to use cork also in the core material. This is of course a lot heavier, but it has other interesting properties. For example, you have a sound insulation. We're also building boats, for example, and in our marine business we would typically use this to insulate an engine room, right? It has fire, like you have a better fire properties, and you have a better sound insulation, which is of course really important, because when you sit in the interior, you don't want to be surrounded the whole time by engine noise. So it's very functional material. Here, for example, we're using this recycled PET again. That's the same material you're also using for the Sherpa and the exterior. This is, let's say, price-wise quite attractive, and you can really get it in all kinds of densities, and so it's quite it's a good substitute for what's most often used, which are foams, right? In the end, it's still not my favorite material because I would prefer, let's say, natural materials, but when it comes to recycled materials, this is already, let's say, a step better and widely available. I think there's no excuse not to use at least recycled PET. That's like the minimum.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Take care.